Hello, my name is Dr. Anna Symonds. I'm a clinical psychologist and director of Elysian Psychology. I've just been on BBC Radio Nottingham talking about how to support children and parents about going back to school next week in June or in September. So I thought I'd expand on some of those ideas with you today. So it's obviously a bit of a worrying time for a lot of people. A lot of people are anxious and worried about how it's going to be and the impact of it as well. So I think it's important to first of all work out how your child feels. So asking them how they feel about going back to school. Sounds quite obvious, but it's a good place to start. And knowing that little people in reception in year 1 may say they have tummy aches the night before, the day before, the morning before, feel sick, headaches, those sort of things. And I would see that perhaps as a bit of a worry tummy or just a sign that they're feeling anxious. So label that feeling for them. I would say, no, it sounds like you're feeling anxious. Or feeling worried, probably a better way to phrase it to a little person. You're feeling worried about going back to school, and that's okay, I totally understand. Ask them if they have any questions, or be prepared to answer questions from your child about what might happen. Now, some schools have had quite a lot of detailed information, which is great, but obviously there's still some gaps and we don't know everything. So I think it's okay to say to your child, look, I'm really sorry, I just don't know. I can't answer that, but we'll find out very soon, or I'll ask the teacher that in the morning. And know that a lot of anxiety is actually anticipation. So it's the thought of doing that thing. So the anxiety level is going to be worse for your child and for you before you go. And probably will go down across the day. By the end of the day, you'll probably feel a lot easier because they'll know everything, how it all works, and so will you. And the next morning, the next day should feel a lot easier. So just being prepared that the worst moment will be the bits before, and that actually on by the end of the first day things should feel a little bit easier. Also, please remember that children are really resilient and really adaptable and flexible. Of course, all children are different, and you may have a child that doesn't like change so much, but most children are kind of adaptable and flexible, and they will go with it. And remember that this won't be a huge shock to them. It's not like yesterday they were at school and it was one way and the next day it's going to be very different. They have had this period of adjustment since lockdown of life being very different and the world feeling very different. So they're used to things changing and they're used to things feeling very different as well. So it's not an overnight change they've got to get used to. I think if you've got a year 6 pupil, there's something very important about endings for people. I know a lot of parents are anxious about their children going back. Understandably, you do whatever you feel is right for you. And as a parent, instinctively, I think we know, just never make a decision based on fear or through fear, because they're often not in a good headspace to make a decision. But do trust your instinct on whether your child should go back. But I think it was about weighing up the advantages of having the ending and finishing at a school and having, not missing out on the experiences that their friends might be, versus the sort of health risks. So only you can judge that as knowing who in your household you might be shielding, or how concerned you feel about your family and your child. But just remembering that endings are hugely important, and especially if your child is not going to have an ending when everybody else is, I think it's important just to bear that in mind. I think there's something about reassuring children, especially the little ones, that we can do hard things even if they feel very different, and that school actually is going to be less busy. It's going to be quieter. There'll be more one-to-one with teachers. So if your child's worried, you could reassure them with those things. Also instill in them some faith of the teachers and the head teachers, that they know what they're doing and they've got this, and you're safe and you're supported. And you have faith in them too. They're not going to do anything that puts your child at risk because they just won't want to. They're teachers because they care. And, they're doing the best that they can. So reassuring your child that everything's being put in place to be as safe as possible. Again, there'll be some bits that we don't know and we can't answer, but just know that your teacher will take care of that. So that's okay. Don't worry about that. Your teacher will have that. And just, maybe starting a routine a couple of days before they're due to go back to school. All children will be out of routines, a bit like summer holidays, isn't it, with sleep and eating, and it all gets a bit lost in the mix. So trying to sort of start that routine, just especially for sleep, just a few days earlier will help them as well. And I think just check in with them at the end of the day. How has it gone? How are they feeling? What is it like? From a curious kind of perspective. and see how they're doing. And for parents who really feel they're not ready for their children to go back, you could always leave it a couple of weeks and see how everybody else in the class is finding it, and perhaps reintroduce your child slowly. I do hope that's been helpful, and good luck if your child is going back to school. Remember, children get their okay from us, so if your child has to go back to school or you want them to go back, you know, it's okay for them to see you worried and to see you a bit uncertain. Let them learn how to manage that by seeing you manage that, but trying to be a bit, okay, but we can get through this, you know, we need to build emotionally resilient children, and you can show that by being emotionally resilient yourself. So you feel the feeling, but we're kind of getting on and doing it anyway. Good, best of luck, and take care.